Have you ever felt overwhelmed by fear, doubt, or uncertainty? Have you found yourself facing challenges that seem insurmountable, or feeling like the darkness around you is closing in? It's easy to let these fears consume us, to feel like we are powerless against the weight of life's struggles. But in these very moments, the words of Psalm 27 can remind us of a profound truth. God is our light and our salvation, and in Him there is no reason to fear. David, in this psalm, speaks with an unshakable confidence in God's presence and protection. He declares, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" These words come from a place of deep trust in God. They remind us that when we place our hope in God, fear loses its power over us. No matter what we are facing, God is our strength, our guide, and our protector. When we read this psalm, we are reminded that God is not distant or uninvolved in our lives. He is actively present, guiding us through the darkness and leading us to safety. He is the light that dispels our fears and the salvation that restores our souls. In a world full of uncertainty, where fear often grips our hearts, it is important to remember that our faith in God can give us the courage to face anything that comes our way. In those moments of fear and doubt, we must pause and reflect on God's promises. Psalm 27 calls us to stand firm in our faith, to remember that we are never alone, and that God will always provide a way through the darkness. David, in his prayer, acknowledges the strength and protection that God offers, and this same strength is available to us today. Imagine the fear that David must have experienced as he faced countless enemies and threats. Yet, he was able to declare with confidence that the Lord was his light and salvation. He trusted that God would not leave him to face his battles alone, and this trust became the foundation of his unshakable courage. How often do we forget that we, too, have this same God with us? We, too, can claim the promises of God and trust that He is with us in every moment. When we are confronted with difficult situations, it is easy to forget God's presence and His promises. We might feel as though we are walking alone in the darkness, but Psalm 27 reminds us that God is always with us. He is the light that guides us, the salvation that rescues us, and the stronghold that keeps us safe from the storms of life. In our darkest moments, God's light shines brightest, dispelling the shadows of fear, anxiety, and doubt. David says, "The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" Psalm 27, banding 1. God is not only our light and salvation, but also our fortress. He is the rock on which we stand, unmovable and unshakable. When the enemy comes against us, whether in the form of physical challenges, emotional battles, or spiritual struggles, God is the refuge we can run to. He is our safe place, our shield, and our defender. It is easy to allow fear to control us. We look at our circumstances, and the fear of the unknown, of failure, or of loss can paralyze us. But Psalm 27 calls us to rise above fear and place our trust in God. It is in trusting Him that we find peace, strength, and the courage to face whatever comes our way. God's light gives us clarity, His salvation gives us hope, and His stronghold gives us security. As we enter into prayer today, I encourage you to reflect on the areas in your life where fear has taken hold. Is there a situation in your life that feels too difficult to face? Is there an area where you feel powerless or overwhelmed? Take a moment to lay these fears before God, trusting that He is with you. Remember, He is your light, your salvation, and your stronghold. There is no fear that can stand against His power. Now, let's move into a time of prayer, bringing our fears and anxieties before God and asking for His strength, peace, and guidance. Prayer for confidence in God's protection and light. Lord, I come before you today, acknowledging that you are my light and salvation. There are times when fear tries to overtake my heart and doubt creeps in, but I trust in your promises, Lord. I trust that you are with me in every moment, guiding me through the darkness and leading me to safety. You are my light, my salvation, and the stronghold of my life. Lord, I ask that you strengthen my faith today. When fear tries to overwhelm me, remind me of your presence. Fill my heart with your peace and your light. Help me to trust in your protection and to stand firm in the assurance that you are always with me. I surrender my fears to you and choose to trust that you will lead me through every trial. Thank you for being my refuge and my fortress. Thank you for being the one I can always rely on, no matter the circumstances. I place my life in your hands, knowing that you will never leave me or forsake me. In life, there are moments when we are confronted by powerful forces, times when the enemy seems overwhelming and it feels like everything is working against us. We face battles that are beyond our control, and the weight of the world seems to press down on us. The enemies David spoke of in Psalm 27 were not just physical adversaries, but spiritual forces that sought to destroy his peace, his purpose, and his faith. Yet, even in the face of these overwhelming challenges, David maintained an unshakable trust in God. He declared, "When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall." Psalm 27 banding 2. This is a powerful reminder for us. No matter how strong the forces of darkness may seem, they are no match for the strength and protection of God. David was not denying the reality of the struggle. He knew that his enemies were real. He knew that the threats he faced were genuine. But what he understood, and what we must also understand, is that God's protection is stronger than any enemy we may face. When we place our trust in him, we can have confidence that he will fight for us, that he will defend us, and that he will bring us victory in his time. There may be times in life when it feels like the battles we are facing are too great for us to overcome. Perhaps you're struggling with an illness that seems impossible to defeat, a relationship that feels irreparable, or a financial burden that seems too heavy to bear. Whatever your battle is, know that God is with you. He is your shield, your defender, and he is more powerful than any enemy that stands against you. David's confidence in God was not in his own strength, but in the certainty that God would prevail. The enemies he faced stumbled and fell, not because of David's power, but because of the power of the God who fought for him. The same God who fought for David is the same God who fights for us today. His strength is unshakable, his power is limitless, and his love for us is unwavering. In the midst of adversity, it's easy to feel powerless. We might want to fight back in our own strength. But the truth is, our strength alone is not enough. That's why we must trust in God, who is our protector and our deliverer. He is the one who gives us the courage to stand firm, to face our challenges head on, and to know that we do not face them alone. When we place our trust in God, we are not saying that the struggles will disappear. Rather, we are saying that God is greater than any struggle we face. We are declaring that no matter how fierce the battle, we know that God's victory is already assured. We are leaning on his strength, not our own, and trusting that he will guide us through every trial. David was able to face his enemies with courage, not because of his own abilities, but because of his faith in the Lord. He knew that God was his ultimate protector, and this same protection is available to us. We can stand firm in the knowledge that, no matter what we face, God is was fighting for us and ensuring our victory. When we trust God with our battles, we can take comfort in the fact that he has already overcome the world. In John 16:33, Jesus tells us, "In this world, you will have trouble. But take heart, I have overcome the world." Jesus overcame every obstacle, every enemy, and every challenge that he faced. And because of his victory, we can have confidence that he will help us overcome whatever we face. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by life's challenges, remember that God is greater than your enemies. You may face difficult times, but you will not face them alone. God is your light, your salvation, and your stronghold. He is the one who fights for you, and in him, you can have the victory. In moments of fear, uncertainty, and adversity, it is natural to seek comfort. We may search for relief in distractions, people, or even our own strength. But there is a deeper, more lasting comfort that can only be found in the presence of God. Psalm 27:4 reveals, David has heart his deepest desire to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of his life, to seek his presence and experience his peace. David didn't just ask for God's protection or deliverance. He sought the very presence of God. He longed to be in God's presence, to rest in the comfort and peace that come from being close to him. The key to overcoming fear and adversity is not merely focusing on the external struggles, but drawing near to God and allowing his presence to fill us with peace and assurance. In times of trial, the world often tells us to look outward for solutions, whether through material possessions, achievements, or human relationships. While these things may bring temporary relief, They can never replace the lasting peace and strength that God offers. Psalm 27:4 invites us to make God's presence the center of our lives. When we seek God first, His peace guards our hearts and minds, no matter what life throws our way. David's request was simple, yet profound. He desired to dwell in the presence of God, to experience His peace and protection. This is the kind of relationship God desires with us, one where we are so close to Him that we find our comfort, guidance, and strength in His presence. When we seek God, we are seeking the source of peace itself. He is not distant or unreachable. He is near, ready to draw us into His embrace. To behold the beauty of the Lord. David's desire to contemplate God's temple reflects a longing to experience the richness of God's presence. When we seek God, we are not just seeking help for our struggles, but we are also seeking to know Him more deeply. His beauty, His goodness, His love, these are the things that refresh and restore our souls. There is no greater joy than being in the presence of God, experiencing the fullness of His peace, and finding rest for our weary hearts. But how can we experience God's presence in our lives? How can we draw near to Him in our busy, noisy world, where distractions are endless? The first step is to be intentional in our pursuit of God. Just as David sought to dwell in God's house, we must actively seek God in our daily lives. This means setting aside time for prayer, worship, and reflection, and creating space in our hearts for God to move. When we make time for God, we allow His presence to fill us, to renew our spirits, and to guide us. Prayer is one of the most powerful ways to draw near to God. Through prayer, we can pour out our hearts to Him, share our fears, anxieties, and hopes, and invite His presence into our lives. When we seek God in prayer, we open ourselves to receive His peace, His guidance, and His strength. But seeking God is not just about asking for His help in times of trouble. It is also about seeking to know Him more intimately, to experience His love and grace in our daily lives. It is about learning to trust Him with everything, our fears, our joys, our struggles, and our hopes, and allowing Him to lead us in every moment. God's presence is not limited to a place or a specific time. He is with us always, ready to guide us, comfort us, and fill us with peace. When we seek God, we are inviting Him into every area of our lives, allowing Him to transform us and lead us on the path of righteousness. And as we grow in intimacy with God, we begin to see the world through His eyes, understanding more deeply His will for our lives and the peace He offers in every circumstance. David's desire to dwell in the house of the Lord wasn't just about seeking physical refuge. It was about seeking spiritual restoration. It was about making God the center of his life and drawing near to Him for the peace and guidance he so desperately needed. In the same way, we are called to make God the center of our lives, to seek His presence, and to trust in His goodness. In times of uncertainty, we can find rest in knowing that God is with us. As we seek Him, He promises to guide us, protect us, and fill us with His peace. When we dwell in His presence, we experience the fullness of His love and His peace. This is the kind of trust and relationship God desires with us, one where we seek His presence above all else, knowing that in Him we find everything we need. When we are going through difficult times, it's easy to become impatient. We live in a world that expects instant results. We want answers quickly, solutions now, and relief from our struggles as soon as possible. But in Psalm 27:14, David encourages us to wait on the Lord, to be strong, and to let our hearts be strengthened in His timing. This is not a call to passive waiting, but to an active waiting, one that is filled with faith, hope, and trust in God's perfect plan. Waiting on God is often one of the most challenging aspects of our faith. When we face challenges, we long for a quick resolution. But God's timing is different from ours. His ways are higher than our ways, and His understanding surpasses ours. The waiting period is not about inactivity. It is about trusting God fully, even when we don't understand why things are taking so long. It's in the waiting that God builds our faith, refines our character, and prepares us for what He has in store. David encourages us to be strong and take heart. He doesn't tell us to wait passively, but to wait with courage, knowing that God is at work, even when we can't see it. Trusting in God's timing takes strength, but we are not meant to rely on our own strength alone. God gives us the strength we need to endure, to persevere, and to continue trusting, even in the face of uncertainty. He is with us, sustaining us, and providing the inner strength we need to keep going. The promise of Psalm 27-14 is that God is faithful to fulfill his promises. When we wait on the Lord, we can have confidence that he will come through for us in the perfect time. God's promises are sure, and his plans for us are good. His timing is always right, even when it feels like we are waiting too long. He knows exactly when to answer our prayers, and his answers are always for our good and his glory. David's words encourage us to hope in God. Hope is not the same as wishful thinking. Hope is a confident expectation that God will act on our behalf. It is a trust in his goodness and faithfulness. When we place our hope in God, we can face the future with confidence, knowing that he is in control and that he will work all things together for our good. Hope in God does not disappoint, even when the situation seems impossible. Hope in God brings peace and assurance that he will not fail us. As we wait on God, we must also remember to strengthen our hearts. This means that we must actively choose to trust, to keep our focus on God, and to stand firm in our faith. Strengthening our hearts is about intentionally focusing on God's promises, remembering his faithfulness, and choosing to trust him in the midst of uncertainty. It is about leaning into God's presence, letting his peace fill us, and relying on his strength to get through each day. Waiting on God also teaches us the importance of patience. We live in a culture that thrives on immediate gratification, but God often uses waiting periods to grow our patience, humility, and trust in his timing. Waiting is not about frustration or impatience. It is about surrendering to God's will and trusting that he is doing something good in us and through us. During the waiting process, Psalm 27-14 calls us to be strong and to take heart while waiting on God. It's a reminder that God is not distant. He is with us in the waiting, guiding us, comforting us, and strengthening us. In the waiting, we can experience God's peace that surpasses understanding. In the waiting, we can trust that God is working on our behalf. And when the time is right, he will bring about the answers we seek. In the midst of life's struggles, it is easy to become discouraged. But Psalm 27-14 is a powerful reminder to wait on the Lord with hope and trust, knowing that he is faithful and his timing is perfect. As we wait, we are being strengthened in our faith, and we are learning to trust God more deeply. God's love and faithfulness are unwavering, and we can rest in the assurance that he will always act for our good.